curious about Joanna Macy's work and how that feeds into some of your thinking around this. And I know Kip has touched on it just a tiny bit too. Maybe we can understand a little bit more about what she's done that's influencing the thinking in this ecological valuing.
Well, I first came across her work in the 80s, a series of workshops that she called Despair and Empowerment workshops, and were particularly offered to peace activists, that many of whom were just getting burnt out, perhaps by that same sense of frustration that we, speak of the three of us, may sometimes feel when we talk to people who just don't seem to understand our concern for our environment and our biosphere in the same way that we do. And it can be a little exhausting. And that was certainly going on at the time of you know, the Cold War and the peace movement trying to protest about nuclear missile sites. So her thesis at that time was that in order to really find our empowerment in seemingly over-challenging, overwhelming circumstances, we need to fully open up to our pain, our despair, which does sound somewhat similar to the kind of work that we do on a daily basis in a way, but this is back in the mid 80s, and her more recent work has been all around global warming, climate change, and the atomization, I think, of society too, and the restoring of you know, the building of a new narrative. She calls it the Great Turning. She's in her late 80s. I was listening to her speaking on the Sounds True broadcast just last night. Tammy Simon was interviewing her. Just fantastic, you know, passion in her late 80s, and still as committed as ever to her line of work. A real inspiration. But she's been doing workshops on the Great Turning for many years now, and that sense that, and I think perhaps, you know, where, and this is perhaps for discussion later as we continue to explore, but you know, she's interested in I suppose what contributes to climate change denial, and the sort of their head in the sand, and you know, this is just too much, this is overwhelming, and enabling in a workshop conditions and through community the possibility of turning to face the potential for overwhelm and finding one's sense of values and purpose in order to look for, if you like, look for solutions from a different and bigger, a much bigger and broader perspective.
Yeah, no, it sounds like very important work. And Kip, I know you've had been familiar with Joanna's work. Would you add anything to what Martin is saying? I mean, I've known about it from Martin, so I am not super familiar, but I do definitely want to find out more about what she's doing and how it might inform us as we consider changing what we're, or how CBS, contextual behavioral science, can contribute to this kind of change, even at the level of the ecological self, starting with us.
There's a premise that I find really helpful and really heart-opening, that there's a story that we have about people not caring or people not paying attention. And I think for me, a part of what Joanna's work captures is that deep down, it's not a problem that people don't care. It's a problem of people feeling overwhelmed and avoiding that pain. And that has been really helpful for me in my growth and development as an activist and a clinician, to work with cynicism, or to not become cynical or harden my heart, but to really trust that deep down people really feel this. And people are really afraid of feeling it because we don't know what to do about it. We feel guilty. We don't want to take responsibility for what we've done to the earth. So that's the first piece that I find really helpful. And then I also encountered Joanna Macy, 10, 15 years ago when I was back home in Tennessee, where I'm from, working with a community against nuclear proliferation. There's a nuclear weapons plant in Tennessee. And several times I got arrested at the Y-12 nuclear weapons plant in Tennessee for civil disobedience. And there was this really amazing community of activists, but who are really committed to nonviolence, and not just, a couple marches a year, but really building community with each other in an ongoing way around these issues and around the way that we're trying to live in the world. And during the court hearing for one of those arrests, we had an opportunity to make a statement to the court about why we had participated in this action. And there was an older woman who was arrested in this group with me, and she was from Germany, and she told a story in the court about being young in Germany during World War II and during the Nazi regime, and later in her life as a mother herself, trying to explain what had happened to her children. Her daughter had asked her, "Well, what did you do to stop that?" And she said, "I didn't have an answer for my daughter when she asked me that question. I didn't have an answer about what I did to stop that. And so help me, I will never be in that position again." And that's why I'm here today, because I want to have an answer when I'm asked, what did I do to stop a nuclear holocaust? And this is my participation in that. And I just thought that was such a powerful story. And for me, it's stories like that that really help me stay in touch with the sense of caring and compassion and the willingness to take risks. And anyway, just getting back to Joanna Macy, for me, that sense of keeping our hearts open and caring rather than hardening our hearts, and trusting that other people really do care deep down, but they're alienated from that, is what the work of Joanna Macy was about for me.